today we're going to learn about how AI is used in music and in audio. You're welcome to just come and kind of...
Okay, good one. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem at all. So I decided to invite 3 panelists to this discussion. And so we have 2 music professors, and we have 1 professor who does digital arts, and so, studies digital culture. This probably is the more accurate description. So we're going to learn today about the wide ranges of the use of AI in different audio tools. And so I'm really excited about this. I'm excited to learn. So the way our format is going to proceed is we're going to start with them having a short presentation just so we can have some idea of what they're talking about. And then I have some pre-decided questions that I'm going to ask them. And then we're going to have questions from the audience. So please take notes as you're listening today. This is intended to be participatory. So we want to hear what your thoughts are, and I want you to have questions for our speakers today. So I am excited to introduce to you today Professor Sean Hagon, who is an assistant professor of music and production.
Music and music technology.
Music technology. I'm telling you what, can't even get it right. And also teaching associate at Mckinley Devilbiss. They are both very active and as musicians, as artists, also as producers and recorders of music. They are used to using the technology. They are both involved in both producing, editing, creating, and distributing music here in our region. Did I miss anything? We're going to hear kind of all about this. Professor Hagon actually also researches this and studies about it in addition to being a practitioner. Professor Gayas Eapen is a professor of digital arts and culture and studies sound audio and recording such as podcasts. So we're going to hear today about how AI is being used in that realm. We're going to have a lot of questions that come up about authenticity, originality, creativity. So go ahead and start thinking about that. The question that I asked them in order to explain for us just to get started is the question that you might think is the obvious one, which is how is AI used in music and in music production? And what tools were used prior to this, and are those tools used in conjunction with AI tools, and what challenges arise with that? So that's the question I've asked them to start with. So we'll hear from them on that, and then we'll just proceed. So I'll now welcome Professors Devilbiss and Hagon. Thank you.
Thanks all. Thanks for coming. So happy to be here. Not many with us all today. How many musicians do we have in the room? Okay, how many non-musicians? All good, right? Just want to get an idea. So I want you to think about AI as a disruptor or a powerful music collaborator. And right now, there's a lot of disruption going on in the industry. We see, the response of AI companies are launching song detectors, and we've got the Supreme Court ruling that AI-generated works cannot be copyrighted without human input. You've got 20,000 bot-created tracks that are now uploaded each day to streaming platform, right, that are not human-driven. So there's a lot going on. Recently in the Olympics, we saw that there's an ice dance duo that skated to a completely, fully AI-generated music. That suffered a lot of backlash in the Olympics, well, there's a big story behind it. We're seeing responses where Apple Music is introducing these new transparency tags to let listeners know when songs include AI. So there's a lot going on. We had, if you've heard of, anybody heard of Breaking Rust? All right, anybody heard of Velvet Sundown? Sure. Okay, so AI-driven music completely, no human interaction with that. So the top Billboard country digital song sales, the number one was Walk My Walk, which was an AI-generated song. So there's a lot of disruption going on. But what I want you to think about is when we think about how music is created, how we're consuming it, AI is changing this. And it's not unlike what we've already seen throughout our history in music technology and production as well. So it's also changing the music business landscape as well, right? But it's presenting challenges for artists and for producers like myself and engineers and what have you. but it's also presenting some interesting opportunities, which we will share with you a little bit further as I'm speaking with you today. So, but I think what I want you to really understand in terms of the impact of AI on music really centers around the creation, the production, distribution, revenue, video, all of these things that we're seeing, and how we embrace it as a tool is really essential to understand it, right? And how the impact is happening, because it's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different arguments, a lot of different philosophies behind it, and it pays. And so if you all country music fans in the house, okay, I'm from New England, so I still like country music, but I know we have got bigger country music era down here as well. Randy Travis, I'm sure people are familiar with Randy Travis, okay, great country music legend. In 2013, he suffered a stroke that took his singing ability away. He was no longer able to sing, and he's a country music legend. And if you've heard Randy Travis's music, you know his voice. You hear it, it's a distinctive sound print. So I wanted to share with you some interesting developments that have happened with AI, and a little excerpt from this video that will speak for itself. 3 years after the stroke, with Mary at his side, Randy Travis was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame and gave Amazing Grace new meaning. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. Well, so in his absence, though, he's heard a lot of the AI-generated fakes of his voice. A simple Google search brings up sites like these, promising to convert anyone's vocal into what Randy Travis sounds like.
It doesn't sound good, and it doesn't sound real, because it's not.
And that got his record label thinking.
We started with this concept of what would AI from good look like for us? And the first thing that came to mind was we would give Randy Travis's voice back.
There were, however, more than a few skeptics. It sounded like, like a parlor trick or something. But Kyle Lenny, with Randy's blessing, decided to try. In Warner Music started by pulling 42 Randy Travis tracks from the vault. Please connect me. Yeah, like this one, the original recording of his hit, 1982. And then they stripped away the music, making only the vocal. That's your duty to tell her. That was half the recipe. The other needs to be provided by a donated or surrogate voice. So I have to get a level on you. In this case, that voice came from country music singer James Dupre. Being a part of new Randy Travis music. I mean, that's like, what? Just right down on the cup and done. That's what was put into the model. The model. It's the secret sauce. Here's the vocals. Loaded in an AI program that takes Randy Travis's voice and overlays it on top of James Dupre's singing. It's hardly an exact science. It's not about how it sounds, it's about how it feels. And that's not something a computer can figure out. Not yet. Kyle knows Randy's voice almost better than Randy does. They worked together for 4 years. This time, though, the task was to take a computer-generated voice and give it Randy's country heart. Him being here, him being able to be, a vital part of the decision-making just makes all the difference. In the end, they finally landed on something they felt worthy of a voice but those who knew it best could replicate.
It's Randy Travis. Randy's on the other side of the microphone. It's still his vocal. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to make music. And to deprive him of that, if he still wants to do that, that's uncomfortable.
And in 2024, Randy got his voice back. Yeah. She had eyes like diamonds, and they caught the light. Oh, but they were dark and deeper than the night. But when she's moved, yeah, how can I? And there ain't no hole where that came from. Pretty fascinating and amazing technology with AI. So what I want you to be thinking about is not AI is not as a disruptor, because we're going to have that with any new technology, but as innovation and opportunity. So with that, let's look at our history real quickly. So obviously, when the invention of the phonograph came in 1877, disruptor, wide performance. But what it ended up doing is it now created accessibility for artists could now reach audiences that they were never able to reach before, right? We saw this with the use of sampling hip hop in the 1970s, right? Where, producers began using drum machines and samplers and creating new beats and things. So that created the copyright issues. We're also dealing with that today with AI. But now artists could reference all kinds of different genres, and that introduced all kinds of music from that era to a new generation. We fast forward to digital streaming platforms in 2006, right? These digital streaming platforms, it's going to allow the users to experience all the music. How many of you are actually on streaming, right? Actually get to stream your music, right? I do it as well. We can stream millions of songs on demand. Now, what's the disruptor? We're still dealing with it, this fair, compensation for artists, right? But we're getting there, right? We're making some headway. But the opportunity, it's about reshaping how artists release music and engage with their audience. And now in the 2020s, we're dealing with some of the same issues, right? We've got the disruptors. What are the opportunities that AI is actually creating? So we've seen this already. So this is nothing new. So despite the hype, all the disruption, and all the conflict, we've been through this before. And I think we just need to find our place and let AI kind of find where it's going to sit in the industry and find its place, and then we'll be moving forward. But we've got some work to do yet. So when we talk about how it's changed, there was actually, just want to share some data with you for Ditto Music, which is a distributor for independent artists. And again, as we know, independent artists in the industry are part of the largest demographic of music, performers, consumers, and distributors of music. So 60% of them used AI within their music projects. All right, 11% of them use songwriting as part of that process. 20.3% use that in their music production workflows. So this is sort of mixing. This could be, EQing, all kinds of different things within the part of that process. 30.6% are using it to master their music, so to get it ready to release professionally. And then 38% are using as part of it to generate their artwork, their album covers, maybe their music videos as well. Okay, future adopters, so that same cohort that we're not using it, we're planning on about 47% at some point. They're going to use AI to help write their songs. 61.5% plan on using it in their music production workflow. 66% for mastering music in the future. And then 76.5% for music artwork, again, to create all of their different visual assets as part of that. But an interesting change happened. So that was in 2023. We get to 2025, and they surveyed the same cohort. And we saw within 2 years what happened. So 60% said they used AI in their music project in 2023. With AI starting to make its way through the market and doing what it was doing, in 2025, we saw a decrease. 48%, there was a good significant drop starting to happen, right? So there was a sort of move away from ones who used AI. What deterred them from it? Very consistent between both. It was this individual lack of creativity, the human element, which we keep hearing in AI and music. We need that human component, right? That creativity, that emotional piece that right now AI can't really duplicate, right? So we look at the same sort of cohorts, comparisons between the 2 years. 2023, 47% said they would use AI for their songwriting. It's now down to 32%. Right? So there's a lot going on here. And then if we look at down below here, were they using AI in their music before 2023? 82% no. So it's a huge increase. All right. So it's very interesting trends that are going on. So I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be two primary AI user types, which we still see. And what's generating all of the conflict and the a hubbub is a fully AI generated music. Meaning I can just type in a prompt, give me Leonard Skinner, Southern Rock meets Taylor Swift. Lyrics need to be about my breakup with my girlfriend and how I moved on and now I've got a house by the countryside. Tap the prompt, spits out a whole entire song, and I'm ready to go. Now I can turn on, I can restart onto Spotify, and I'm good to go, right? That's the first user we're going to see. The second user, really where we're going to see and continue to see, is going to be the AI as a production tool. So I use AI in my production workflow. Mckinley uses it in his workflow in a lot of different ways to help speed up our processes. I use it as an AI assistant as we'll see it. So it's going to be part of a human-driven creative process is really what we're talking about. So I think we're going to continue to see these two types of users despite all of the disruption, which it still needs to find its way as we go. So there's still a lot to get through, a lot to experience, but I think these are going to be the two main things we're going to continue to see with that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mckinley to talk about it as a powerful creative cloud.
How's it going?
You're good.
So I'm Mckinley. I teach in the music technology program with Instigating, and I'm going to ask person in general sense when it comes to music and the arts, who feels like they're leaning like their works for the idea of AI to do whatever agent can. I'm the kids. Don't be shy. Or if everyone's totally against it. Who feels like they're generally not full to use AI? Okay, cool. Interesting. It's a bit of a loaded question because there's so many different aspects that can be a part, right? And Sean's done a great job on that out. I'm going to give you some examples. Like my experience with this is mainly through production and recording kind of stuff. Not so much generative AI in my case, although I'm starting to research that more and just to kind of validate what we're doing with. Well, I want to give you some examples of how it might creep up in my this is not something that I've used, but I find it very interesting. So Sound ID is a company who perhaps makes a few different types of software, but they recently implemented voice AI.
So there's vocal effects, and then there's this. This is my voice, this is my voice.
This is my voice.
This is one of the craziest AI plugins that I actually use as a music producer. This is Sound ID Voice AI by SonarWorks. I can turn my voice or any vocal into any of these AI voices.
You can choose from 23 different styles of voices, and they're going to continue to release more styles.
The plugin is also equipped with 21 creative instruments. You can simply just hum or beatbox and transform your those vocals, into drums, guitars, violin, synths, string instruments, and many more. It's the first plugin to be able to do this within your DAW.
Right, I'll play you a snippet of my voice. Yeah.
So I'm sure in our discussion we'll talk a lot about whether this tuple purple and the different ways it can be go. So this is where my experience comes in. Who works in music production? Do we know what Ozone is? It's a mastering suite. And they have a lot.
Welcome to Ozone 12, your complete mastering suite. And trusted by producers and engineers for over 20 years, Ozone now features an overhauled assistant that puts you in full control. The latest mastering tech provides louder, clearer tracks and 3 brand new additions to its 20 plugin toolkit. Fix the unfixable with STEM EQ. Locking your low end in any listening environment with bass control, and magically revive overcompressed audio with unlimited. Whether you're working on your first release or the next #1 hit, Ozone 12 gives you the control, power, and speed to realize your creative vision and bring your tracks to life. Let's take a look at everything you need in Ozone 12.
Yeah. People are starting to find creative ways to use this in a live performance context. Very interesting how the Philharmonic Orchestra has been rating it.
Yeah. Silicon is in 3 movements, and each of them uses AI in quite a different way. The first movement uses an AI that generally equals it. The current send it into sort of a weird, bizarre direction.
Yeah.
Well, and in the second movement, I wanted to see the deep fake music as opposed. I wanted there to be an AI instrument that was kind of creepily hanging out at the back, playing like it's sort of the little structure for music, and then for the back is the orchestra where all these different genres, whether it's thing or different bars. But and the third movement uses an algorithm which generates like raw audio.
With some avant-garde style for instance here. And we already saw this video about Randy Trappin's right? Accessibility gear. We also have the ability for independent artists to use AI to create graphics and videos to help support their content, putting things out on Instagram and social media. This is not something I'm very great at. I'm pretty bad at the social stuff. So, things that can help speed that up might be useful. Okay, so we talked a little bit about these things, but I want to break down some specific ways that I find that AI can be collaborative and helpful. I have kind of 3 categories in mind, efficiency being the first one that we're going to talk about. So we looked at ozone a little bit. We still want to hear of Isotope RX. So this is a program that does a really good job cleaning up audio, and so you have a whistle in the background of a live recording. You could kind of find that and erase it essentially. So there's kind of 2 categories of this helpful AI in sense of efficiency. Ozone 12, the mastering suite, pretty much takes tools that we already were using and speeds up your process. It can do it in a way of using the mastering assistance of the program. So it kind of does a master for you in a sense, but I like the fact that they call it an assistant because I like to think of it more as just another engineer saying, hey, try this. And you, as the final engineer, have to make a decision on what's working and what's not. And you have the option to go in and change anything about that to make it work in your eye. And I appreciate their marketing and putting in power. It's not doing the work for you, but giving you some idea how to do things. But to answer, I'm going to say it first, Juliet, I'm so sorry. To answer one of your questions, like, are we using tools that already existed with AI? This is a strong example of it. There are some new things with it. Vardex, the program that helps you clean up audio, that's an example of something kind of doing stuff that we could not do before. I'll give an example in a video here in a couple of slides, but you can get rid of background noises that are right in the middle of your audio in a way that I have never been able to do it without the help of AI to. Clarity de-reader is another one that kind of does stuff that I can never do without the plugin, AI powered. There's a recording that I did years ago that someone sent me. I did the mix for it. Someone recorded what sounded like their bat and just filled with reverb all around the vocal. And I struggled so hard to make it work in the recording. And then this comes out a couple years after I submit that recording. I said, no, I wish I had. And since any time I've come across that problem, this plugin just gets rid of reverb in the background. Not wait. I'll always be clicking the button. Yeah. So we kind of have obviously it's making our workflow more efficient in ways that were tools that we used before, but in a faster way. And in ways that we were never in something through. Here's your video on.
It's all now. Brought me up at the dinner table. I won't have anything to argue about. I'm not gonna sit down, shut up, wear a smile.
So have you ever tried to mix and edit audio before? That is a huge difference. That is super helpful. And without those tools, we feel about picking that stuff up. So talking about using these tools and the idea of collaboration. Yeah. As I mentioned before, with the mastering assistance example, it's not really intended or maybe not even very useful for you to just click the button and let the computer, the algorithm, the AI do its job and walk away. You have to decide what's right and what's wrong. I found this to be useful in the sense that I've used this plugin specifically, Ozone and Flum, and learned new ways or new sounds that might work for the recording that I do not already do. I could never use this and never had to tweak something afterwards to my ear, but it's definitely showed some new perspectives, just like working with another human who has a different experience to me. So it's fun to use it for that way. Reading to my notes here. Yeah. With all the tools built into that mastering suite, it'll show you new and creative ways to use things that you maybe have never thought of before. And kind of in that same vein, I think of it as an education tool. While you're using this plugin, basically you highlight a section of your song, let it play to the engine, and it'll listen and then kind of make some processing happen. It'll kind of show you like applying this process for this reason, this next process for that reason. I've actually learned a few ways to master my songs, even if I'm not using this AI-powered plugin, just by watching its process and going and seeing all the different steps that it took in deciding what word to make it. And back to the. So our discussion on whether or not this is a disruptor or how bullshit. I'll be honest, like my initial reaction to AI is kind of, it feels disruptive in a lot of ways, and I'm sure we'll have a big old discussion about it. But I want to lay out some ways that I think we can take AI, because it's here, it's not going anywhere, and use it to best of our advantage and try to dodge the disruptive part to the best of our ability. We talked about it being collaborative, like House of Efficiency, also creative assistance, and also education. Some ways that it could be disruptive in my mind, missing the point of art. If I ask myself, what is the point of music and what is the point of arts, the word connection will come to mind. And that can be connection from your own self to some kind of feeling that you have that's out in you. It can be connection from one human to another. Dance that play cover music or connecting someone else's art to a new audience in a different way. Human experience, right? When people make art and write songs, this is coming from your own experience and your own culture. And you can see this by traveling the world, experiencing different cultures and how diverse it is. So having that part of our artistry is super important. Meaning, purpose, and appreciation grow through adversity. So this is kind of calm. I thought, like, it took me, how long have I been playing music? 20-something years to get where I am as a musician, right? I don't know that I would have the same appreciation for the craft if I just learned it yesterday, if a computer did. This is not me saying that we should never use AI for these purposes, but at the same time, I think it's important to have to work for your craft free. Redefining a goal. So I'm going to use mastering as an example. We talked a lot about, like, people using, like, up to 66% people in the future might use AI for mastering. I think is your stat. Learning what mastering is, if you talk to a professional master engineer, it's a lot more than just processing. There's sequencing the album, there's metadata that gets thrown into the songs. It's considering your medium, whether it's tape, vinyl, CD, streaming, or otherwise. And it's also like a final quality check from a professionally trained ear to say that your music is ready to go. And currently, these mastering tools are just processors that make your song sound different based on trends that are happening. So we're kind of redefining a role there in maybe a way that's not entirely all. And that's about it for me. So these are just some things to think about, and I'll like that passing on.
Thanks.
Well, I mean,
Next. I mean, we're still not buttons. So the next.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for that great presentation. I feel like there's so much in common things to talk about. My name is Gayas Eapen, and I'm an assistant professor of digital culture and design here in the Department of English. And I'm going to talk to you about this phenomena that some people call AI lady that likes to sing, or AI lady that sings. This is coming out of a work or a piece of work that my friend and collaborator, Professor Malcolm Ogden, and I are working on. He's based out of University of Richmond. And we're working on these 3 case studies. The first one of them is Levin Labs. People have heard of Levin Labs. So they're basically a software company, a fairly valued software company that's marketing advanced AI generative tools for transcription, music creation, voice cloning, and voice support for intelligence agents. The second sort of object we're considering is Spotify DJ. I'm sure you've come across Spotify DJ if you're using it. Sort of picked up in the last year or so in the sort of raps that it creates has become a more prominent feature. And the part we're going to be discussing today is this channel called Learning with Lyrics. I'm pretty sure you've seen some of these videos even if you don't recognize the channel. So I'm sort of going to talk about this Learning with Lyrics part of this paper today and think about how explainer style videos have changed over time and what is the role of AI tools within that phenomenon. So here's a little sample that I'll play for us.
Here's buildings and nerds pillars on the wall. But it doesn't look so much about the way they it back. So you want to leave them a tree of the big colors, something that the see that they got penetration test basically at that English shape into the brittle status of Mr. Huster. Each little real until they finally get on it down. They know the be safe, we stand, we say it's job to be steal the street.
All right, I'm going to pause, otherwise we'll keep listening to this. So, how many of you have seen a video like this appear on your feed? Yes, mostly all at first, right? So, while this is not a surprise, Learning with Lyrics is not the only channel doing this, right? This is across languages a phenomena. I speak to native languages from India, and there are like videos appearing like this in those languages, right? So it's become this blown up phenomena in digital culture, which is sort of actively utilizing AI generative tools for entertainment, for meme generation, for internet-based humor, right? So they explain very basic stuff like how do painkillers work, or how do miners find diamonds under debris, or how are bridges made in the middle of the river, right? So simply, these videos deploy a number of AI generative tools, including text, video, music, to come up with explainer videos. So what is the process here, right? So particularly in the case of the Learning with Lyrics channel, there's a 21-year-old college student who is behind it. He studies in California state system, and this process is coming out of a Business Insider interview that he did. And since then, he's been teaching his process to people, right? So he tells us that basically he starts out with the AI text generative tool to do research and create a research brief on, say, for instance, how a bridge is made in the middle of a river, right? He then goes and does manual proofreading. This is significant because AI generative text tools, as you know, can throw up a lot of errors, right? And he doesn't want to sort of lose his credibility over that. He then runs and does Google Gemini to do a draft of the lyrics of the song, right? Edits the lyrics to sort of make sure everything is consistent, the hooks are clean, that there is sort of no technical, very hard words in it. He then goes to this platform called Suno to generate songs based on a prompt and based on those lyrics. And then there are visuals created on Sora or Zio. So there's like a whole gamut of AI generative tools which come together along with human creativity and process to bring videos like that together. According to him, it takes up to 5 to 8 hours to generate one of those videos that he just saw. All right. So my sort of scholarly interest in this area is trying to come from understanding how and why do these videos become popular, right? And we all seem to enjoy them. So at a time when young people are increasingly getting skeptical of AI-generated content on digital platform, why are they protective of this AI lady that sings, right? Like, so they're like, oh, we're going to annihilate AI from the internet, but we just want to save that one AI lady that sings, right? In the bit of social media users' own critiques of AI slop, misinformation, and asking for complete annihilation of AI tools and content, learning the lyric style videos have become a strange love object for internet users. It might appear so in the first instance that these songs using AI-based platforms like Suno have killed the culture of sharing and enjoying music together, right? Like stuff which Mckinley was just talking about to us, right? Feeling is absent. But in the case of these videos, something totally different is going on, right? It's not about just music that we like to hear for entertainment, like tune into a Spotify playlist or listen to it, but its specific purpose is that it gives us the knobs, right? It is human-generated content, which is leading to its popularity. It might, sorry, one second. You might feel like AI-based music has led to endless possibilities of infinite personalization, which is going to jeopardize the careers of artists, since people will turn to generative tools for music that they might enjoy individually. While this might be true, in my opinion, synthetic voice or AI voice doesn't necessarily serve to replace the audio space that would have been otherwise occupied by human artists or human voices. Rather, a lot of the times, these videos are leveraging synthetic music generators for the purposes of generating song names and humor. As Australian artists and scholars Sean Hagon, James Parker, and Joel Stern say, the companies behind commercial AI music generation know how well suited their product is for the main game, and that there's money to be made, right? So it's not that it's going to take over the work or the careers of artists, but there's a completely different industry that is going to be supported by this work. All right, switching gears a little bit and sort of moving through fast, AI-generated songs might give a short-term laugh or entertainment, but it is important to remember that AI music and sound generation platforms like Suno and Udio, and these are sort of the kind of quick prompt-based tools that Sean was talking to us earlier about, that they are fundamentally based on the labor, the creative and often copyrighted work of artists, that these works have been scraped off of the internet without their permission very often. And as a result, Suno, which is currently valued at close to $3 billion and has a turnover of $200 million a year, has been sued by the Recording Industry Association of America, by German Recording Association, GEMA, among other players in the music industry, right, or the music production industry. So this is becoming a huge debate because they are, at the end of the day, taking the patterns, taking the voices, and taking the sort of creative, laborious work of artists and scraping them and to create these tools. Artists, however, have responded in other creative ways to the shifts in sound and music industry. And I'm going to play a little clip from a performance led by musicians Jennifer Walsh and Tomomi Adachi as a part of an album project and performance series called Machine Listening Songs About Effing Suno. Right? So what these artists do is that they sort of parody songs generated through Suno, and in this particular song, they take the words from an interview clip by the Suno CEO Mike Schulman, and the idea is that it critiques some of the vapid and awful things tech CEOs end up saying very often, but not musicians themselves. Statements, shit. It's amazing. It's just it's amazing. I think it is amazing. It's just not I'm back to test me. GPT. It is amazing. It's just not for that. TikTok today is in you. It is amazing. It's just not for that. And then doesn't mean GPT is amazing. It's just not for that. And now, where's it be? GPT is amazing. It's just not for that. I'll pause there because it goes on. So some of the things that within this parody album they use includes lawsuit documents, stuff tech CEOs say. It sort of like brings the series of awful things and creates it into this live performance series in order to parody and expose what these artists call infinitely shallow listening of infinitely shallow music, right? Sort of bringing some of the resistance part coming from artists themselves for using these same tools of AI-generated music and the language and the sort of words spoken by some of these tech CEOs to create a badly, right? Just like a full circle moment here. I guess, yeah. So I sort of going to very quickly discuss some of the implications of this practice for digital culture. And so one of the things that I'm interested in is thinking about this idea of attention economy, right? So in the attention economy that we all live in, audiovisual platforms are increasingly prioritizing formats of affective engagement, right? Sort of like felt engagement that we have that hold our attention, our curiosity, even for just a few seconds. Within this scenario, highly personalized and easy to generate music tracks are enhancing the mean game, right? And ensuring that circulation and virality are specific and targeted. I just came from teaching a social media class a bit ago where we were talking about the rise of personalized sharing networks, right? We're no longer sharing within larger communities, but instead we're just aiming our few friends, right? And that's the sort of market that the internet humor, AI-generated music is starting to get into, right? That one song about that one friend who tripped a few days ago at a party, right? And that's a brand new song that we've come up with. We shared a laugh and everyone sort of enjoyed that, right? A couple of other takeaways that I won't spend too much time about are the increasing role of digital intermediaries, right? There's a class of experts who are emerging who are now asking us to sort of learn these techniques and tools in order to be experts and then use them to sort of get into and circulate our culture, right? And this is also becoming a new industry. And finally, some of the sort of more media historical stuff is to think about this idea of discretization, right? How does a media form get removed from its own, removed from human body, right? So stuff Mckinley was also discussing a bit ago. So there was a huge crisis when the first recording of music came about, right? You could hear it separate from a human body. That was a crisis, right? It happened in the history of photography as well. This is in the age of AI, the discretization is happening across several levels, right? And that's also something that I'm interested in keeping to think. All right, finally, I'm going to sort of read a little quote by this artist, producer, musician. It says here, his name is Kramer, and he says that sound is the sensory medium in which awareness of coming time is felt. More particularly, sound is the sensory medium in which the awareness of continuing life is felt, right? So I know that we've been looking at AI in various other aspects of life, from text to image, but it is my firm belief that if we track what is happening in the area of sound, we might sort of feel what is the future that is coming up for us and to take it seriously. All right, thank you.
They didn't.
Not quite
Unless they have to get to one of lights on.
please.
I have no idea what to do to make more light. That work?
Works to be at.
Then, that's the opposite. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, this was super interesting. We've got about 12 minutes for questions. And I will just ask one question because I'm sure you guys have a million questions. But I'll just preface my question by saying I'm partially very relieved by both of your presentations because as a novice idiot who doesn't know anything about the term AI usage in music, I was really worried that what y'all were going to be doing is what he was presenting. So I was very relieved to learn that in AI music production, you're using very specific professional tools that have an AI assistant in it. That's kind of not what I was thinking of. And that's not what I understood, because I was worried about the use of generative AI for creating music, and having heard how terrible it was, I was like, this can't be the way that music is going, right? That would be bad. So I'm glad to learn that when we're talking about this, that it's kind of a parody. So my question is, and when you're referring to your AI tools that are within these, like, I couldn't use any of these things, right? I've been in a recording studio once. There's many buttons and screens, and it's very, very complicated. But, like, is there a sense in which, like, are people pushing back? Is it the AI assistant part that people are kind of pushing about? Or is there a worry about the generative AI that's slipping into the music production part, that's what people are worried about?
It's the latter. It's all, I don't know if Eddie, you all know Suno and ADO, or heard about it. So it's the generative AI. It's for all of us that are trained in music. And you can said, wait, we trained in crowd for years, many years. I've been in the industry for over 30 years as such. And so for someone to be able to sit a prompt in Suno, generate the song that sounds like the next top hit, because it's analyzing what a hit song is, right? It's putting out there, and then now we've got the next song. And as I mentioned, we had that here, Walk My Walk was a #1 hit, not on like the top Billboard, but on digital sales charts, country charts, that was completely generated. So that's the pushback right now. But we are seeing, because there's been so much pushback, which is great. So advocacy is really huge in the industry. So artists are standing up against it and saying, I'm not okay with this. It's also scraping, my music, and which I didn't give permission for, nor am I getting compensated for, to generate this music. And so now with those lawsuits that we were seeing with Suno, which sued from Warner Brothers, you were talking about it in yours, and then also Udio, sued from Universal Music Group, the others. Now we're seeing partnerships, and they're saying, okay, now it's okay, but you're going to compensate artists, and we're going to come up with new and emerging technologies that can then be utilized as assistants for different ways of incorporating into the sphere of music production and creation.
Cool. That's been interesting. All right. I'm sure there are many questions, so we'll start here.
So I noticed a couple things, like not just with the fully AI generated songs, which I agree, they completely take out from an element, but also within the musical production tools that you can click a button and it'll produce your music like a punk rock song or a pop song or any one of those things. And also that some artists use AI to generate album covers or things for social media. Do you think that this could have implications for how we see music maybe more as a product or commodity to be bought and sold rather than an art form?
Anyway. But yeah, can we think about that for a second? I mean, absolutely. And I mean, judging, looking at it from two ways too, was there's a lot of these things give opportunities for people who maybe don't have all those buttons to go higher and do that to get some part out. Hopefully there's some human elements involved, from my opinion. But yeah, and it's, I think there's a positive in that sense, but it's also, putting out content for the sake of content, second money's always bothered me a little bit. So just from my own opinion, the stuff that I always gravitate towards was always art first. And then if you're putting your own creativity and on experience into that, and people happen to like that in the environment that way, that's the way I hope it continues to grow. And if AI can support that, then awesome. But it disrupts that process.
And I think it will, because I think we're seeing a push back more towards live music. So you're going to have those two lanes that I talked about. You're going to have the AI musician, and you're going to have the trained musicians that use AI, right, as part of their creative process. And it's you're not going to have an AI musician go out and actually sell tickets at the venue and make money, right? So that's not going to affect what we need to do. And so you're going to see that they got to use the various tools to be able to promote themselves and those kind of things. So I think you're going to see the two lanes are gone. We just got to figure out, you're going to have one lane over here, how many are going to get on that lane, and then obviously the rest of us over here, and they're going to coexist, and it's just going to take some time to sort that out and figure out where it's going to be. It's just like anything else as we saw throughout our history in music technology, that all these disruptors became opportunities for something else. And we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there pretty quickly. Yeah.
It's important to remember that the product is also not always just music that we see in performance areas or streaming music, the products also like internet culture, right? And there is a huge market for people who are using generative AI tools, combining them in various ways. These are hobbyists, people who are not necessarily trained in music or on recording or production, but are just like using those tools to create a market for themselves. So of course there's space in which that is also getting monetized for sure.
So I thought it was awesome how they use AI to give Randy Travis's voice back. But do you think that there's any ethical implications, such as somebody sitting in their desk at home making a Michael Jackson song, for instance, even though they've passed on for years, or something like that, more type of things that are kind of bad with that same process?
Yeah, I mean, there's ethical, issues with it, but you also have to look at recently the U.S. Copyright Office just released a second report in 2025 that states that AI-generated music in any way, shape, or form, like fully generated without the human element, cannot be copyrighted. So any one of us in the room could generate that music, say, I'm going to copyright this as my own work. You can't do that. It's not allowed. And even performing rights organizations, same thing. They will not register works that do not have that human element. So the one unifying factor in all of this is that it has to have that human touch, that human component, that human element that's been infused into the work for it to be copyrighted. And so again, it's just got sorted out. But I think because there's that response, there's been that pushback. So, okay, we're going to respond. We can't copyright these kinds of works. I mean, the Supreme Court just this month actually just stated that, fully generated AI works cannot be copyrighted. So we've got the backing of the Supreme Court now. So things are happening from a legal and ethical standpoint, which are really, really positive. And again, we still got to sort through the AI slop that we see and kind of figure out what that's going to be. But it's just like anything else we've got there. We were dealing a little with streaming music, right? With artists not being compensated fairly. We've made progress, but there's still more work to do. So
They do. If they can't copyright, how are they going to monetize?
I mean, they can monetize it. They can put things up. Like YouTube actually has a channel that you can actually monetize your AI-driven music. It's specifically stated. I think one of your questions was, what are organizations doing to let people know this is AI-generated music? Well, they're creating channels for that to coexist. It's another form of sort of AI art that's out there, and it has its own place, right? And so again, all of these different organizations, and YouTube included, are setting very specific policies and guidelines as to how you can monetize it and what you need to do to be able to monetize it versus, putting it out. If we were to all create our own music and monetize it as we normally would, we're not have to be able to do that, in the AI music lane if it's fully generated that way. So there's very specific policies that are being set in these very highly, focused areas of the industry based on the way that they're delivering their content or service.
That was one of my questions also, was to what extent should people be obligated to say that this is AI generated? If you use it to help make something that you're making, that's different than just completely AI generated. And as long as you're saying, there's a specific forum for this is an AI generated thing. I didn't actually do it. So, I mean, that seems like at least we have some category for that. And I'll have to confess, I have teenagers who are far better. They can pick up immediately if something's AI. And they call things, that's AI, that's AI. And whereas I'm like, wait, are those raccoons really jumping on the trampoline? What's happening? So
there's actually a thing that's happening where there's an AI music super fan. They like AI music. It's an actual demographic. And they know, and that's what they listen to. So it's interesting to see how it happened. But we're also seeing pushback in the industry where I do a lot of writing for TV and so on, and the music catalogs will not accept AI-generated music. They've made a very specific pact and stance against it. But with all the technologies, as you saw in our presentation, that can actually track it. So if I submit something that's got AI in it, I'm going to get called out on it. So there's a lot of technologies that are starting to emerge for attribution purposes that are going to catch it. So again, it's if you're going to use it, you better be careful. How are you going to use it? Where are you going to use it? You're going to get caught, and there's going to be implications. That's the best.
yeah, very big. I'm a lot more frustrated for your gap.
As from somebody who's been in the industry for a while, especially on the production side,
I know as a kid, I started playing music in movies, like recording at home with a dream, and all of a sudden I could do it. And then it was, oh gosh, and now I have this mastered. Now I can do it. So from your perspective, from your side of the industry, do you look at any of these tools and you go, I wish that didn't exist because that's putting people out of work? Or do you kind of look at it and go, this is making my life a little easier and making it more affordable because not everybody can afford. I think I looked at it, it was like $500 a song, kind of song master. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I look at it both ways. I'm still forming my overall opinion on where all this is going, and we're such in the wild, wild west of it all. But like I said, you talk about mastering. Like, there's going to be maybe a way to look at it as like a luxury version of it that a human can offer, and compared to like the AI version of it. There are some restraints on like the quality that like a mastering software can put out. Like, if that would be even up to CD quality of like 44.1K, 16 bit, it can't really put those out. I think there's some AI mastering softwares that can pay extra for that, but most of the time we're already producing music at a higher quality visual platform anyway. So there's some constraints there. But yeah, I think whether or not we like it in surround, so it's more of a question of how can I use this to my benefit. So if you are struggling financially and you were able to get music out, great, awesome. I think that's promoting something.
Also, I really appreciated the talks and all the different ways this is done. One concern I have is on environmental aspects of Gen AI. So obviously, when it comes to like the LLM training, word stuff, and image session involved. But so you talked about lots of other aspects that you use in AI that aren't the lyrics and that aren't video. That. What are some of the environmental aspects to those similar LLM training process? And do I electricity, or is it just using the AI term that's sexy but doesn't have it? So did that get?
That's a great question. In the training aspect, I don't really know the answer to that. So like a lot of the tools that I present in, they're hosted on a computer, and so it's just like you don't have to connect to the internet and send it off and send it back. So the actual generation of its processing, we're not, pouring out 2 bottles of water in the process. But in the training of it, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, that's something to research and find out.
Yeah, but with the generative AI tools, they're of course tethered to servers, and they need sort of cloud storage spaces, and they require capacity. I mean, those are physical servers. I saw videos of like old architectural buildings and churches being converted into server farms. I'm sure you're seeing stuff like that online. So that's of course there. One of the things that came out of the last critique videos that I showed, there's an article attached to that. And the idea behind those performances is to sort of seriously think about this, right? Are we really willing to spend so much energy and infrastructure and space and land to generate the LOLs, right? Like, are we just sort of willing to sacrifice so much of our environmental capacity and energy just for some laughs? So that's something that the artists really are taking seriously. So your questions right there, yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Yeah.
I know just for the AI sector as a whole, one of the main points for everyone wanting to use it is that it's very convenient and it's very cheap to do so. I think personally, the only reason is that it's affordable. It's just because there's so much money being pumped into AI as a whole right now. Like billions and billions of dollars will be pumped into AI, and when eventually those billions run out, all of a sudden these AI companies need to make their money back, or else they're screwed. So it's not going to be affordable for much longer. Or how much longer do you think it's going to be affordable for? Because there's no way it stays free to use, especially something as expensive as video generation or music generation. And do you think it's going to keep staying affordable, or do you think it's going to start costing a lot of money?
If the tools that y'all use in professional stuff, are those free?
No, they're subscription-based. I think
That's right.
you've got to continue to see subscription-based. So even in the non-AI tools that we use, if there's different plugins, like I use a lot of virtual instrument plugins for generating orchestral scores, things of that nature. That's all on the subscription base. And has stayed pretty flat for years. If anything, it's become more affordable because if I wanted to be able to use to mock up a string orchestra just for the violins, for me to buy that, it would have been $1,500. Well, now it's $20 a month. And I get the entire orchestra. I also get all the synths. I get the drums. I get all the percussion. I get the woodwinds. So I think there's an affordability piece of it that I think it'll become less expensive, particularly in the video area for musicians, because be able to generate your own music video is pretty awesome as an independent musician. But, years ago, it was out of the question. It was just cost prohibitive. And now that we have the tool, but I agree they're expensive. Like you get 700 credits, and went in and I did a couple of prompts to test it, and I used them 700 credits like that, and I got a 30-second video. I'm like, this is nuts. I got to drop $300 just to come up with a video that I want to generate. So I think we'll see it become a little bit more affordable, but it's a concern.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's about what we're forgetting to learn, right? So if we sort of, and I know a lot of us in the room are a few in the room are music production folks. If the emphasis is to sort of like proactively only learn AI-based tools, and you're sort of not learning the alternatives, then it will automatically lead us into opting for the subscription, right? So I think that's the answer. If you are willing to spend time and not go the shortcut route, then you might save some money to not opt into the AI branded model. So software and subscriptions, that's my personal opinion. Yeah.
And there's going to be some things that are going to happen for all the musicians in the room, the things that we've heard about. It's like, well, somebody, I'm going to be out of a job. You're not. What's going to happen is, we all hear this, is that, musicians that use AI won't be replaced. Musicians who don't will. Meaning, make it a part of your creative process, something in AI. Not necessarily that means you got to use Suno and generate songs from that. But you got to use it as part of the process, and we saw it throughout our history. The thing you have to remember, as we all talked about, is that it's that human element, right? It's not how it sounds, but how it feels. And AI can't get there yet. It may get there. We don't know, but it's that emotional piece that it requires everybody in this room to add something to that creative work in order to make it feel something and bring the ability to it. That's really got to be downloaded before that can compose to it.
Well, we are unfortunately out of time, so let's thank our panelists.